Before you get married, when you're dating, everyone wants to know, when are you going to get married? They want to know how many children you're going to have, all of the things. So when you come from a blended family or have a blended marriage where you have children, your spouse have children, they want to know when you're going to get married. A lot of times they don't ask you or they don't talk to you about the complexities that go into marriage, right? Everyone wants to know, you're going to get married, you're going to have a big wedding, where it's going to be, your colors, all of that. But how many of them talk to you after the marriage? So one of the things that we know that goes into any relationship, good relationship, is communication. One thing that you find out when you get married is some of the things that you thought that you had gotten over, they come back to harness. When you get married, everything comes out. The things that you thought you had dealt with, things that you didn't know that were still there, things that bother you, all of the things, they come out during marriage. And in these years that we've been married, we see all of that, and especially being a blended family. So one thing that my husband and I did early on is we always make deposit into our love bank. And love bank is not anything of a visual or obtainable, nothing that you can put your hands on, but certain things we say, like if my husband goes out and does something, he'll say, I'm making a deposit into the love bank. I don't necessarily broadcast it like my husband because we are two different individuals. However, he knows I'm making a deposit into the love bank just because it's something out of the ordinary. If I like something sweet and he comes home and surprises me, that's that's a deposit. My husband loves flowers and roses and that kind of thing. So sometimes I'll just buy him some roses. It's not a particular day. It's not anything special, I would say. But that's my deposit into the love bank. Sometimes he washes my car. And some people will say, well, that's what he's supposed to do. No, that's not what he's supposed to do. That's my car. He'll go out and I'll have gas in my tank all the time. My husband is always putting gas in my car, and I have a premium car, so that can kind of add up. So one of the things that we wanted to do really above the communication and the deposits is be more intentional about our marriage and about each other. When I tell you, if you have children, right? Or if you have a big family, if you are busy, have busy lifestyles, if you work full-time jobs and you have things to do on the side, sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of times your marriage takes a back seat. And people will say, no, you're supposed to but you have to be intentional about your spouse. You have to be intentional about your marriage. You have to purpose in your mind that you're going to put that marriage first. And a lot of times we don't. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. So that means you have to be intentional. Intentional means I am intending to put my marriage first. I'm intending to put my spouse's needs first. I'm intending to listen more and not want to speak out. Intentional listening, intentional communication, intentionality. Intentional goes into a lot of things. It's not just I'm putting you first, but I'm putting your needs first before mine. I'm thinking about what you're saying and not quick to respond, but truly intentional listening to you, being mindful of the next person. That's all intentional is truly being mindful. So one of the things that we really wanted to do this year is be intentional about our marriage and about each other. I'm sorry, I'm still a little under the weather with my sinuses. However, I wanted to show you what intentionality looks like. My husband and I, we typically take vacations around our birthdays, that kind of thing. But this year, we went to Jamaica. And as you see, we've come into Jamaica. Now we're on a raft ride and we're enjoying ourselves. You guys, this is the first time that we've gone away for 8 full days, no children. When my husband and I first got married, every trip was like a disaster. I'm not kidding you. I'm just being very transparent, because it's two personalities coming together. Even though my husband and I have known each other for almost 20 years, when we got married, baby, it's something about getting married when you're older and have children than when you have no children and you're younger, right? Because those personalities kind of mesh. But when you're set in your ways, woo, you need a whole lot of Jesus. So we would take trips, and our trips would be, we would argue. We would, we never have ever been physical, but we would argue. And when you're paying for trips, it's like, I don't want to argue. I don't want to fuss. I want to have a good time. And you come back like, I'm never going to do that again. And then what you do it again. Why? Because it's something that you like. So this was one trip that we actually did not argue. I told my husband, I said, I don't know if it was the weed in Jamaica, because, it's legal. I said, so I don't know if everybody was smoking around us, because we wasn't smoking, but you had a contact. So everybody was kind of calm, cool, and collected. So I don't know if that was it. Nah, just playing. But we were really intentional about this year, pouring more and more into each other. So this 8 days, baby, we needed it. Not only did we need it, but we realized how important it is. We had already started doing our date nights every other week, and that's intentional. That was an intentional thing that we started doing. One of my gripes was, I want to do something and I want to be romantic. I want to feel romance. And I would always look to my husband, okay, plan something for us to do that's romantic. And one day I was listening to Bishop T.D. Jakes, and he said, if your spouse is not the one that plans the trips, but you're good at it, then you plan it. If your spouse is a person that it has the romance bone, then let them be in charge of that. If they're better at finances, let them be in charge of that. Why get upset when you want your spouse to do something that you have a better feel of doing? So if that is your expertise, then you do it. If something that you're wanting done is their expertise, then you let them do it. Stop getting upset when that person is not doing what you want to do, and that's not in what their strength lies. We are, as a couple, you are there for each other. You complement each other. So where you're weak, I may be stronger. And where I'm weak, you're stronger. Learn to compromise and play on that. That way, it keeps you out of a lot of frustration. But I tell you, a lot of frustration. Because when I start to learn that my husband is strong in certain areas and I'm strong in certain areas, and the areas that I'm weak in, he's stronger in, and vice versa, it started going a lot better. So I stopped waiting on him to plan our dates, and I started doing it. And when I tell you he enjoys it, he's just not a good planner. Because his thing is, he doesn't want me to be upset about something he planned. Now, granted, he has planned a few, and he does a good job. So when he does plan something that I wouldn't necessarily like, I still say thank you, because I know it's something that is stepping out of his comfort zone. So we did this foot rub, it was a limestone foot rub and massage that they wet the limestone, break it up, and massage it onto your legs and let it dry. I know that my husband is not really keen on some man rubbing his legs, but he did it for me. And so those are the things that compromises get you, because it was a nice something different for us to do. That means he's intentional. He was intentional. Okay, that's something that you want to do. I'm not necessarily vibing with it, but I'll do it because you want it. So those are the things that you take into consideration when it comes to intentionality. So this trip was something for us to add to our books that we wouldn't necessarily do, so to speak, or we have done, that take that that much time away, not from just our family, our kids, but from our jobs, from our work. Y'all, that was really intentional. So when the thing comes up that you want to be intentional about your marriage, there are going to be some times that you have to truly put your thoughts aside and figure out what's good for you all. So this trip was one of those things that was for us when we decided that we were going to pour more into our love bank, not just individual deposits, but a together deposit. So you have your individual banks, and then you have your banks as your bank accounts as a couple, like we do. So our household expenses go into one account, and then we have our individual. So this trip wasn't a couple pour into the love bank, because let me tell you, there are days that marriage is going to be hard. Let's be honest. There are days that it's going to be hard. And when you have those days, you need something to pull from. You may love your spouse, but you may not like them at the moment, right? And that's okay. That is normal to not really like your spouse. People don't tell you that. People don't say, oh, you see people and they're like, oh, I just love. Okay, but what if I don't like them? I may love them, but what if I don't like them at the moment? Is that okay? Is that okay for me to not like them at the moment? And sure, it is natural. It is normal. So when you have those days that you're not liking your spouse at the moment, or you're having a rough patch, because you will have those in marriage, whether it's early on, whether it's the 5-year mark, the 7-year mark, the 10-year mark, you will have, and even 15, 20 years, you will have those moments. And when you have those moments, you need something to pull from. So when you're making those couples deposits and you're making those individual deposits, you actually have something to pull from. So you can go into that and just go down your memory bank of deposits and say, okay, I don't feel loved, but I remember when you did this just last week or just the other day, and it made me feel good. Those are the things when you need to pull from your deposit. And I will tell you, if you have not been making those deposits, you can always start now, right? If you think about like, dang, when was the last time I did such and such? Start today. It's no time not to start. It's nothing like starting now or depositing more. If you feel like, okay, my deposits are less frequent, then up the frequency of it. Up the frequency of it. There will be days that your spouse will do 100% more than you do, and you may do 50. They may do 150 and you may do 75. And then there's a day that you may do 150 and they may do 75. The thing is, it's never going to be 100 and 100. It's never going to be 50-50. You're going to have days that it may feel a little lopsided. And when it does, you look back at those love bank deposits so that you can withdraw something. But when there's nothing to withdraw, it makes it harder to look back at things. So that's the reason why you make these deposits. That's the reason why you are intentional about the things of your marriage, because you need something to pull from on those days. People can tell you all day, every day, oh, when you're gonna get married. When they see you dating somebody and you post somebody, the first thing, oh, you didn't tell me this. Okay. And when you get engaged, oh, when is the big day? On the big day, oh, you had a beautiful wedding. But they don't tell you on those other days. So I'm telling you, those days will come, and you need to make sure that you're making deposits. Make sure that you're pouring back into your marriage, and you're taking turns, just like he's taking turns doing my husband's legs, and then he takes turns on doing my legs. That's just how marriage is. It's about compromise. It's about your turn. You can't both. He only has one little bucket, so it's impossible for him to do both of our legs at the same time unless he had a hose, and then something would go missing. So know that you will have some downtime. Know that you will have to take some turns in marriage, and that should be okay. That will be perfectly okay as long as you're both intentional about making the deposits. And it could be small deposit. It doesn't always have to be something grand. It doesn't always have to be something big. Even if you don't have the money for Jamaica at the time or some out of the country trip, plan a weekend where it's just you two. If you don't have the money to go out of state, plan a staycation. I know when my husband and I were, when all our kids were home, I would do in-house picnics. Y'all, I would make sure that the kids had, and that's before charcuterie boards came out, I would make our hors d'oeuvre trays. The kids would be set, and then in our room would be his favorite drinks and his favorite food, and would be mine, and we would turn on movies, and we would have us a nice in-home picnic. And when I tell you those were the best for my husband, he still tells people about those those in-home picnics. And I'm just doing something because, like I told you before, I wanted to feel romance. I wanted to be romantic, and at the time, because we had all the kids at home, we didn't have all that money to go out every other weekend, so we had to be creative. We had to get real creative when it came to the things that we wanted to do and not make sure that we're leaving each other out. So those are the things that we did. So you don't have to be grand. If you want to be grand, hey, by all means, be grand. But if you don't have the means to do that, or you have the means and you don't have the time, then find something that is less, meaning, okay, babe, I'm gonna plan us a weekend just away. That means our phones are off. That means your time is mine. That means your body is mine, mine is yours. All of the things. Put your intentions out there. What you're wanting from the trip, what you're wanting from the staycation, what you're wanting from the one night. This is what I need at the moment. And then you be intentional about meeting your spouse's needs. Is it always easy? No, it's not. But baby, it is so worth it. It is so worth it when you can come together and you can be intentional about each other. That means that you hear me. Not you just hear me, but you are intentional about hearing my needs. You are intentional about listening to me, and you are intentional about doing something about it. It's one thing to say you hear me, but you do absolutely nothing about it, because then I don't feel heard. I just feel like you're listening to me. But when I hear you, that means I'm doing something about it. And in your marriage, you want to be listened to. You want to be respected. You want to be heard. And then you want some action behind that. You want to know that, okay, my spouse heard me and they're doing something about it. And I want to feel, and then you want to feel that your marriage is important. Your spouse is important. We took those vows for reasons. And those reasons were because I love this person. And there are days when I may not feel like I'm in love with you. That's why you have to be intentional. Love is an emotion. It can go have you on all kind of roller coasters. But at the end of the day, you want them to know that, you know, it's important. You're important. Our marriage is important, because one day those kids will be gone and you're with your spouse. What plans have you made? What deposits have you made that you can pull off from when it's just you two? So when you take those staycations, those overnight stays, those 4 days away, or even the week away like we did, you're learning each other all over again. And every day we change. So if you've been married several years, you're changing every single year. And you need to come together and remember the why. And then learn each other all over again. Learn what makes you tick. Learn what makes you laugh. Learn what makes you smile. Even learn what makes you cry. All of those things will change over time. We get a little more sensitive. And when we get a little more sensitive, you want to make sure that your spouse is in tune to you. So taking these trips and taking those overnight stays, or even these the picnics and all of the things. What you're showing your spouse is, I am in tune to us. I know that we're going to be here for the long haul. I know that we're growing. And as we grow, I'm going with you. So you grow together, you become together, and you stay together. Will it always be easy? No. But like I tell anybody, it will always be worth it. Look at that handsome man right there. Ooh, that's my boo. As long as you are in it together, you're doing it together, you will stay together. I'm telling you, you have to put in the work. It will, as they say, it will work if you work it. If you're both working it, and if you're both intentional about each other, you're both intentional about your marriage, then your marriage will last and stay for the long haul. However, you do have to be intentional, and it does have to work. And you find things to work. As you progress in age, your taste changes, your viewpoints change. And so therefore you bring each other into that viewpoint. You bring each other into it, into those cold days, into the sunny days. I'm telling you, it will be worth it. It will be worth it. You'll know why you struggled so hard. And then the days will come where it won't be such a struggle. Why? Because you're growing together. Two things are becoming one. So two viewpoints are becoming one viewpoint. So you're going to always have your own viewpoint, but you know how to take the others serious. So that's where it says two things are becoming one. If two things are becoming one, you know how hard that is. So that means you have to work at it. It doesn't come easy, but like I always say, it will be so worth it. I hope you all have enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments, and we'll be here for part 2.